Bethune Cookman's Darnell Deas returned 2 kickoffs back to the house, and when you do that, it's an automatic player of the week. Oh yeah, it's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's St. Wire. And I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. And remember, when the mic cuts off, the journey isn't over. It just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, which is Sunday, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube or YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. We'll wrap up today's episode with a look at FAMU's new target for the athletic director position. Angela Suggs has not been officially hired, but she has been offered the job, right? So she is clearly the target. In segment 2, we'll look at North Carolina Central's defense, go kind of game by game, because I do like what I've seen from them. And I know that some of the scores have been high, but that's the reason we're going to go game by game to break down what I've liked from the Eagles defense. Well, we kick it off with Darnell Deas. We kick it off with our player of the week. Now, typically, player of the week is reserved for somebody who is in the game of the week. So it's kind of like we have the player of the game in the game of the week. I typically don't do player of the week, right? But that's the closest that you would get to it on this show. But when you have a performance like Deas did, against an FBS opponent, this immediately supersedes everything I have going on. This supersedes Joshua Nobles and his 2.5 sacks, right? It supersedes all that. It supersedes the Boombox Classic. This is now bigger than the game of the week. Let me flash up here what it is that Darnell Deas did. Deas had 2 kickoffs that he returned back to the house. Not just one, not just two, or excuse me, not just one, but 2. You're looking at a guy who, I understand that you sit here and you say, oh, two to the house, that's important, that's whatever. It's way too early to be talking like this. But to me, Darnell Deas is an NFL player. That right there proves it. When you look at what he's done over his career, it's not just this game right here that he just popped out of nowhere with 2 kickoff returns. That would be extremely premature for me to say. And I understand that we're sitting here in the beginning of September? I almost said February. That's not a state. I mean, it's not a month. I'm all confused today. Let's get back to Darnell Deas. I understand that we're sitting here in the beginning to mid-September. It's way too early to talk about who's going to be in the NFL next year from college and this, that, and it's way too early for draft talk. But I told you that Darnell Deas' performance supersedes our game of the week, supersedes our player of the game. It also supersedes the norm of not having this conversation this early in the year. When you perform the way that he did, you put a statement out there. And to me, I have to look at what he could do in the league because I think that there is an easy role for him. The NFL is trying to activate the kickoff returns again. The NFL is trying to tell people we want to bring this play back into action. Because of that, you're seeing NFL teams invest in more return options. You're seeing people want to invest in 2 return options. So now instead of just having one out there, or one in a guy, right? Because you're going to have 2 people back. But instead of just having one and a guy, you're now going to have 2 guys back there that you're looking at as a guy. I was a little bit distracted. The Falcons-Eagles game is closing out, and the Falcons just scored a freaking touchdown with 34 seconds left. But you're having 2 players back there who are return threats, not just one threat and a guy, right? So with that, that opens up more space for somebody like Darnell Deas. right? It opens up more space and more opportunity. I look at a player like Brandon Codrington, ironically, North Carolina Central, who we'll get into in segment 2. He made a play for the Bills. He had a big time return for the Bills. Now, when you look at that, that's a roster spot. That's something that's going to hold over. And I don't think that this is going to change. I do not expect the NFL to alter the way that they're looking at kickoff returns. I don't expect the NFL to say, hey, this amount of increase, like we're looking for a 10% increase in returns. We didn't get it. So now because we didn't get it, we're not gonna move on with, like, I expect this to stay around. I would even expect them to try to incentivize returns even more. Maybe instead of going to the 30, they'll say 35. I do believe they're gonna put a concerted effort towards improving this play. The NFL's concerted effort to improving kickoff returns is directly impactful on a player like Darnell Deas, right? So he's our player of the week because he had 2 kickoff return touchdowns against Western Michigan. That already is important. That already is impactful. But when you look at what he's able to do over his career, Darnell Deas has 6 kickoff return touchdowns. That's 1 away from an FCS record. And I know we always operate with this idea, if you're good, they'll find you. I don't know if I necessarily believe that. I've seen some talented people who haven't been found. But when I look at kickoff return, when I look at return specialists, and I speak of this with my experience covering the Saints. Right now, Rashid Shaheed, Weber State, that's FCS. Prior to Shaheed, it was Deontay Hardy. He's from Assumption College. I'm assuming that's the first time you've heard of that college. That's a D2 program that isn't the most known. I don't know if there's anything out there other than Deontay Hardy. Like this is if you're good, they'll find you. It doesn't matter. Like punters, I don't care if you're punting at a high school. I don't care if you're punting in a D2 school. I don't care if you're punting in D1. Your 50-something yards is 50-something yards, right? Same with a kicker. You kick in a 67-yard field goal. It doesn't matter if you did that at North Carolina Central or if you did that at the University of North Carolina. That's the way that I look at it. Same with here. I don't know if subdivision matters too much for a guy like Deas. Maybe he doesn't get drafted. I'm not predicting him to get drafted. I'm telling you he's NFL bound, and I think he can make an impact. 6 kickoff returns for a touchdown in his career, 2 in 2021, 2 in 2022, and then 2 in 2024 already. 1 more, and he'll be able to get this. That's game, y'all. They close it out. Jalen Hurts threw an interception to Jesse Bates. Psh. Anyway, now we can really dive into this content, right? I feel like I was slick. Distracted. Let's turn that off. Ain't nobody worry about that no more. That was a live update that you've already seen, but I saw it in real time. Anyway, the point is, and I apologize, Darnell Deas, if this feels like this hijacked your segment. So let's end it strong. Darnell Deas had 2 kickoff returns against Western Michigan. I don't know if you need to have FBS competition as a kickoff returner. I genuinely believe that they will find you at this specific situation or this specific position. I don't know if I say that for everyone, but for kick returner, I don't think subdivisions matter as much, but doing it against an FBS opponent can't hurt. Darnell Deas returned 2 to the house, 198, 195. I would say that the second one was my personal favorite because it was one in which, first off, he shrugged off. He made somebody miss a tackle. The first time he just outran an angle, so you saw the speed there, but it didn't look smooth at the beginning. And sometimes I like to see how people react when things don't go right. And it seemed like they didn't go right there at the beginning. Seemed like he misjudged how the ball was going to happen if the ball didn't hit him in the face, right? Like it looked like it was going to go out of bounds, but then it just kicked up. I couldn't tell if it clipped his helmet and that's why it didn't keep rolling, or if it just it just stopped, right? You see punts that happen sometimes. Regardless, he fielded it because he had to, and he took off. Somebody was close, and then nobody was close. It was just that simple. Darnell Deas is a dynamic player. He is a dynamic player. We saw that this weekend against Western Michigan. 2 kickoff return for a touchdown. He's a dynamic player who has a skill set that the NFL is trying to maximize. They're putting a concerted effort behind maximizing his skill set. I understand it's way too early to have this conversation, but I think that Darnell Deas is NFL bound. Now, as we push forward, North Carolina Central's defense, I think they're championship bound. I really do like what I've been able to see from North Carolina Central's defense, and that starts with the game against Alabama State all the way down to their latest matchup against North Carolina. Today's episode is brought to you by Roy. And no, not Roy, a person, but more so Roy Return on You. Now, this is the new platform that allows fans to get involved in the NIL deals. We all know the NIL has changed the way that college athletics moves in the 2020s, in the 2020s. But now this changed the way that NIL moves with fans. It allows you to get invested because you can directly support the players. Roy allows fans to directly give back to their favorite college athletes. With Roy, fans can play a key role in shaping the future of their favorite teams while athletes maximize their NIL, which of course stands for name, image, and likeness. Download Roy for iOS or Android and enter the referral code Locked On. And with that, you'll automatically be entered in a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. Visit Roy.com for additional details. No purchase is necessary and void where prohibited. Get the Roy app on the iOS or Android today. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out Locked On Texas. Jonathan Davis does a phenomenal job with that. I really do think that he does a phenomenal job. And he has a new Monday feature that we were talking about recently. So make sure you guys check that out. But anyway, North Carolina Central's defense has shown me something every week, and I really do like what they've shown me. It's not inconsistency that they've shown me. It's not like they're showing me something new. Actually, they've shown me something pretty constant, and that's the physicality. I think I know that this team is going to be a defense that will walk up and they'll punch you in the mouth. I would love to see them against a team that loves running the ball in the MEAC. I would love to see them against the Norfolk State. Matter of fact, I think their first conference game may be against Norfolk State. I could be wrong. Let's look that up real quick. NCCU football schedule. Perfect. We love you for that. Yeah, their first one. Circle City Classic, September 28th, 2 weeks. I'll be looking at that game because Norfolk State is going to run the football. I think that this is a team that's going to neutralize that. They're here to punch you in the mouth. Max Urin is a guy who plays angry. I was mad because I thought he had a neck roll. I made that up. Max Urin does not have a neck roll, but he surely plays like he does the way that he comes downhill. I really do enjoy this football player at the linebacker position. Y'all know I'm a linebacker guy at the end of the day, but he plays a certain brand of football. They play a certain brand of football. It was evident against Alabama State. Against Alabama State, you're looking at they just beat them up. Right? Like they just punched them in the mouth and kept punching them in the mouth repeatedly. And Alabama State didn't have an answer for it. And I don't want that to be confused as, oh, well, they just went against a soft team. I'm not sure if Alabama State is soft. I wouldn't necessarily say that, but they didn't have a response that day. But if Alabama State would have responded, it just would have been a physical matchup. I've seen Central continue to have physical performances over and over. I can tell that this is just the makeup of their team. I can tell that. This is just what they do, right? Because then you go against Elon. And against Elon, now it's like they're going to bring physicality to you as well. Elon is going to bring physicality to you. And I thought Central didn't really deal with it well in the first half. But then they responded, and that response told me, okay, it's still there. They're not going to shell up from a physical ball game. And and when I say shell up, I thought that Alabama State shelled up during that game. They were like, it felt like the physicality was too much. I think that North Carolina Central was just losing the physicality battle. Then in the second half, specifically halfway through the third quarter to the fourth, they said, we have something for you. We have something for this. And that's when I started seeing the linebackers coming downhill. I like it. Then against North Carolina, this isn't necessarily about physicality. It's about the points that you allowed on the board. Like let's go through the three teams that they faced. Bama State. This was supposed to be one of the best teams in Black college football this year. I understand that the whole Jonah O'Brien situation wasn't great, right? And I think if Andrew Body starts that game the whole time, I'm not saying that they win. But what I will say is I think we have a different ball game, and I would have loved to see that matchup of physicality. I think that would have been a very fun one. But even then, I still think they were winning in the trenches. It's just it would have been a matter of could Andrew Body have made these plays consistently because they were getting to him. I don't know if he keeps breaking all the tackles, right? Like that could or could not have kept happening. So I'm not of the mindset that if Andrew Body is in that game, they guaranteed win. I think it moves completely different. I think there's so many different variables that shift if Body starts the game. But the physicality was on full display there. It was. And I thought that they physically dominated that game. Then you look at Elon. This is a team that came in wanting to be physical with you. I saw the response. I maybe didn't like how it started, but I saw the response. And once I saw that response, I said, okay, it's here. It's here. It's present. I know it's with them. And then North Carolina, let's read these numbers real quick. That's FBS competition. That's the only context I need to add here. When you look at North Carolina or the game against North Carolina, I want to pull this up. Okay, boom. In North Carolina Central versus the University of North Carolina, that game was 17-10 for the entirety of the third quarter. And we're speaking about North Carolina Central's defense right now and how they've been impressing me through the first 3 weeks, and I love their physicality. This right here is a big deal. Allowing only 17 points to an FBS competition at halftime, okay, that's good. Allowing only 17 points to FBS competition going into the fourth quarter, that's really good. That's really good. And I think that makes a statement of how your defense has been playing. We've seen this at different times. It's a battle of endurance. Okay. I thought that Howard's defense played well against Rutgers to start the game as well, but it's a battle of endurance. And in this game against ACC Power 4 competition, I thought that they weathered that storm for a good amount of time. And then finally they got to the fourth quarter and they gave it up. But guess what? I don't think if they play I don't think they play anybody in the MEAC. I'm not naming any names, not naming any schools. I don't think if they play anybody in the MEAC, it goes that way. If they're holding tough for the first 3 quarters, I think they're going to hold tough for the fourth. North Carolina Central's defense has shown me something. They shown me that they're physical. They shown me that they have the ability to stop Power 4 competition. These are big things that when we get into MEAC play, I'm waiting to see if it translates, because we know conference play can be different. It's not always translatable. Conference play is just different. Whatever, it's like division. It's just different. But I can't wait to see, because I'm going to tell you right now, that North Carolina Central defense, they've shown me something through the first 3 weeks. Let's see if they can continue pushing. But moving forward, FAMU has a new athletic director in their sights. Angela Suggs has been offered the contract. Seemingly, she has accepted the contract, but the contract has to be approved. So let's go into that aspect of it as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and FanDuel is the official sports book of the Locked On Podcast Network. I was hoping that the Falcons would not win, in case that wasn't clear. The NT needs to be clear. I was hoping that the Falcons wouldn't win. Good thing I ain't put no money on that FanDuel. But if you put down a $5 bet, regardless you win or lose, then you'll still get 3 weeks free of NFL Sunday Ticket. Now, here's the beautiful thing. That gives you every single game in the league any given week. You can go multi-view, so you can go all the way from one game, taking up the whole screen, or 4 games, kind of just cut in half. This is beautiful. I love it. As a person who uses Sunday Ticket every Sunday, it's the happiest day of the day or happiest day of the week for me. And Sunday Ticket only makes it better. So you go ahead and go to the go to FanDuel, put down a $5 bet, and you get NFL Sunday Ticket free for 3 weeks. For 3 weeks from YouTube and YouTube TV. Take advantage of that by going to FanDuel.com/lockedon to make every moment more. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day, every day, making it all the way to segment 3, and I thank you 2 times for that. FAMU wants Angela Suggs as their new athletic director, and this was quiet. Everything with FAMU has been loud this year, but this right here was quiet, and I liked that. I really did. I think that everything that happened with Tiffany Dawn Sykes was a tad bit too public for me. I didn't like how public everything was. I felt like too many people were putting out too much business. At one point, people were talking about her location. Now, I don't want to make that normal, It was only one weirdo doing that, but that's where it reached. When you think about it, like, that's where this reached to. It reached to the point where people talking about location. I think even those who are against Tiffany Dawn Sykes at the moment still shun that. They're like, yo, that's weird behavior. We're not doing that. But I use that even as an isolated, even as a one-off, even if that is, or even as that is the vast minority, it reached there. It was public. People were talking to me. I heard too many people talking about Tiffany Dawn Sykes that don't talk about these kind of things. I didn't like it. Handle that business in your house. And I feel like this business is being handled in-house. Timothy Beard, the interim president, he said, hey, clear house. And in a month, I think she left on August 12th to 13th, something like that. I think the 13th. It's September 15th or September 16th. This was quick. This is a month. I know some people have longer AD searches than that. I like it. There's going to be a meeting on Friday to approve the contract. But she's accepted it. She's FAMU through and through. Let's look at the contract a little bit. $250,000 annually, straight flash. She's gonna get $250,000 annually every single year. You know that's what she's getting, right? Now you look into some of these incentives. $20,000 for getting $700,000 in guaranteed games, but that won't include men's basketball or women's basketball. You get a fundraising bonus for different achievements. You have 3 tiers on that: a $25K tier, a $35K tier, and a $50K tier. Then you have a bonus for ticket sales: $4,000, $4,500, $4,000, $4,500, and $5,000. That goes for each tier. 3 tiers. If you're able to sell 4,000 tickets before the first regular season game, you get 4,000. You're able to sell 5,000, you get 5,000. Right? Like, it's just basically a ticket. Pay per ticket type of deal. And then you go into some of the easier ones for me. Commissioner's Cup, 5,000. CD Henry, 2.5K. The McGee Jacket Award, 2.5K. Academic Success, 2.5K. All Academic Achievement Award, 2.5K. So that's what we're looking to see if they're able to approve on Friday. But I think that this is good for them right now because it's somebody I know that they'll feel like they can trust. I think that was the problem with the last AD. I don't care how you felt about Tiffany Dawn Sykes. I think objectively speaking, those two sides did not trust each other. And that was a reason that they needed to depart. They needed to separate, right? Angela Suggs is FAMU through and through. She was born on campus. Like, through and through. Elementary school on campus, high school on campus, college, went to FAMU, got a bachelor's. She didn't leave FAMU until she went to go get her master's. And now look at her coming back. 2009, she was back working. From 09 to 17, she was working with the school in a variety of different formats, and in a variety of different formats and a variety of different jobs, right? Let's read some of them. She managed administration for FAMU sports teams, men's and women's track and field, cross country, softball, men's and women's tennis, the Rattler Spirit groups. She's not new to FAMU athletics. She's not new to a lot of the things that go into this. You know what else she's not new to? The money aspect, because she was working as the president and CEO of Florida Sports Foundation. 7 years she did that. Had a couple of Super Bowls, had a couple of Pro Bowls, right? Like 3 years in a row, 23, 24, 25. She added that. That's the current streak right now. She's a part of that. When you think about it, we're talking about FAMU through and through. I know they feel like they can trust. I know they feel like she's going to do what's best for FAMU. I think that the idea was that Tiffany Dawn Sykes was doing what was best for her. This is not my opinion on it. This is just what I think was their belief. And now she's going, or now they're going to get somebody, man, that bleeding colors is a cliche, but it applies here. She bleeds that. FAMU to her bloodstream. So I think that they're going to be very happy with their pick. And I think that her experience in business will help a lot of monetary things. So I look forward to seeing on Friday if they approve this contract. I suspect they will, unless there's just something completely wrong. I think they're going to approve this. So on tomorrow's episode, we'll be looking towards the Southern Heritage Classic. I think I may try to get a little bit of Grambling in there because I thought Grambling had a really big victory over Texas A&M Commerce. So I think we'll be looking at a couple of those things on tomorrow's episode. But in the meantime, in between time, until the next time that we hear each other, family, take care, stay blessed. Peace.